Hablar con una persona de nivel de Versan es increíble. Para mí es un placer poderlo tener en el canal, presentárselo a ustedes para que puedan entender el conocimiento que tiene una de estas personas tan profesionales, al lado de su hermano Vandel, que tienen un negocio muy interesante que se llama Black Swan Capitalist y que vale la pena verlo hasta el final. No dejen de darme un like, de regalarme un gigantesco comentario en el canal y no olviden también de ver todos los demás videos que estoy dándoles a ustedes. Además, si quieren hablar con él directamente, métanse en la página. Les voy a dejar acá en la descripción ese link de esa página para que ustedes vayan y analicen a fondo si este señor, que es un berraco, puede ayudarles a manejar sus portafolios, a guiarlos un poco en algunas de las inversiones cripto. Pero por ahora los dejo con esa entrevista que acabé de hacer. Me pareció genial y vale todo el oro del mundo. Como él dice, el oro es uno de esos activos que hay que tener. El Bitcoin es uno de esos activos que hay que tener. Igual hay que tener un portafolio diversificado y por el otro lado, recordarles que no somos sus asesores financieros, pero él sí les puede asesorar personalmente si lo llaman y se conectan con él. Nos vemos, espero que les guste y me cuentan por favor en los comentarios qué opinan de esta gran entrevista. Chao. Hola, bienvenidos todos. Este es un excelente video, una excelente oportunidad. Vamos a hacer la entrevista en inglés porque obviamente por obvios motivos y la idea es entender un poquito quién es. Hello, Versan. This is Bernardo. This is CriptoBernie. You're welcome. I'm really happy and honored to have you here in my channel. And it's amazing to have someone that knows a lot, so much as you do, and try to explain us more about XRP. Welcome to the channel.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on your program.
Okay, so I don't know if people know about you, but I found a lot of info about what you do have done all the time, and you do an excellent work around crypto, more specifically about XRP. Can you tell us a little bit about you, about the Black Swan Capitalist, and all what you do?
Of course. Well, at Black Swan Capitalist, our mission is very simple. It's to empower your listeners and just about everybody to create, hopefully, this better world. And we simply do that by helping others gain a very deep and methodical understanding of how financial markets work and how to prepare for what we believe to be the greatest wealth transfer in history. And simply by providing this kind of access through the information we provide, we are kind of leveling the playing field for everybody else. And that just simply ensures that people, your audience, worldwide, just people in general, have the opportunity to learn, but also connect and take action to build wealth for themselves. A little bit about my background. Before I started teaching this stuff and studying it myself, I've been a business owner, multiple cash businesses. That way I don't have to pay taxes, being smart about the system. I've always been an investor long before I got into crypto, a swing trader. I'm a huge gold advocate. So I advocate people to preserve wealth through physical assets. And just generally, I've always tried to educate even my dear friends. And, I've always been a researcher. And at this point now, I'm a macro analyst and my background is engineering. So I try my best to bring critical thinking and practical experience through business to provide actionable insights for your listeners and everybody else.
Wow. There's a lot of people already saying hi to you in the channel. There's Hugo that is saying hi, you're amazing. Wow. I know about you, but I didn't know there's a lot of people knowing everyone that speaks in English, because sometimes in Latin America, the people don't speak English or they're not bilingual, but I love doing this, and people will appreciate in this talk about XRP and about the crypto. What do you think about Ripple and XRP? What's happening at this moment?
Well, it's very interesting. I think what we're seeing happening with Ripple, it's, ever since 2020, we started researching this in 2019, but we have believed that what we see happening with Ripple and, for instance, the SEC, this is exactly what we think is theater. And I've been shouting this out for more than 3-4 years now. And so far, nothing has changed in my mind. I still believe this is theater. I don't think it's about investor protection or regulatory clarity like they say it is. It's really about control. And if you look closely at the SEC, they have always operated really as an arm for Wall Street and the Senate Banking Committee. So that's how deep the rabbit hole goes, right? It's an institution that is designed to help Wall Street while suppressing the innovation, suppressing the investment opportunities for just ordinary people like us. And their job isn't simply to regulate, it's the gatekeepers, you would say, for institutions like BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and the rest of the banking cartel that really controls the flow of capital in the world. So when I start to look at XRP, I think it has disrupted their business model. And at this point, you can expose how outdated and corrupt the banking system already is. And instead of embracing the innovation like they should be doing to protect investors, they actually tried to kill it. And that's where the SEC really comes in. So selectively enforcing regulation to suppress XRP's rise and its role in innovation and just changing the landscape. So I think they're propping other projects like Ethereum, and they're building infrastructure around this stuff to suppress the true innovation. And I think it's important for people to understand that XRP is not owned by Ripple. It's a neutral sovereign bridge reserve asset. So when you start to look deeper into the XRP ledger, some say it's decentralized, others say it's not. And that's a debate that I'm not ready to have because I simply do not know the truth. But I think if you look at Ripple and XRP, you have to understand the mechanism behind it. And it's really about replacing the effective role of the US dollar. And that's when you begin to understand the real role behind XRP. And we already look at the traditional financial system. We look at the dollar, and we can tie that into some of the other topics you discussed, like tariffs and certain things and the de-dollarization trend. And the world is changing, and we simply have to look at things from a realistic perspective, right? And the funny thing is the lawsuit, it's just a smokescreen. And I think while this lawsuit and this corruption has been going on, you look at Ripple very closely. And what have they been doing? They've been building relentlessly the infrastructure, the liquidity corridors, if you will, the on and off ramps, the plumbing to the new financial system. So while they're being attacked, something else is happening behind the scenes. So again, being discredited, but the very same institutions that are discrediting the technology are also adopting it at the same time. And then we asked the question about the end game, and it's really that I think Ripple is becoming a private central bank, not in name, but in functionality. And that's like, it changes the dynamics of just the whole monetary infrastructure.
I've been following a lot of info about XRP and Ripple, and at the beginning, around 2014 or something like this, they were charged, or 2015, I believe it was. They were charged by FinCEN, and they had to change, and they rotated and pivoted towards another kind of business instead of fighting the banking system. So they changed. They wanted to do the same as Bitcoin in a better way, but then they pivoted towards helping and having the financial system helping them and doing some good networking with them. That's what I feel they have done in the past, and now they're trying to work with them, but at the same time they're working with them, and they have over 1,000 NDAs. They are fighting against them, so I don't know how it works. It's really hard.
Well, it's very interesting. I think the majority of people, let's say, are, with all due respect, are glued to what I call headlines, okay? And they're distracted by the lawsuit. They don't realize that the system is already being built in silence. And we had a dear friend, Rick Rule. He came on our show before. He's a gold advocate. And what he told us off record was very interesting. And he said, Versan, Vendel, to my brother, secrecy is the name of the game in the higher echelons of finance. And I think he's right, because this isn't about hype. It's really about control, consolidation, and at the same time, the inevitability of a shift. And you really do realize that Ripple and Stellar are actually at the center of this. And it's really the tool XRP that solves the payment puzzle. So they're touting Bitcoin, they're touting Ethereum, other protocols, but behind the scenes, they're doing something else entirely. So my point being to your audience is that I believe, and it's very strange, I know this sounds like a conspiracy, but how many conspiracies have been proven true already, right?
Yeah.
That this has been in motion for a very long time. And I think they're setting the stage for the inevitable shift. It's as simple as that. And of course, we can dive into all the nuances behind it and the headlines and whatnot, but constant stream of good news, constant stream of, again, consolidating digital infrastructure, but they're being attacked and the price isn't moving. And people keep asking why. And I think it's because they're not looking at the bigger picture. These things don't happen overnight, obviously. It took roughly 4 to 5 years for some of the XRP community to realize some price gains, right, to hit $3 since the lawsuit started. And again, the facts and the law have always been on our side. Even XRP was deemed not a security. And if you look around the world, and I get information from Saudi Arabia, I get information from Dubai, and the people out there are telling me, Versan, this stuff is regulated already. You can use it to pay your phone bill. You can use it to put a down payment on a home for 2026, which is interesting. Japan already openly talked about using XRP as a currency. So we can also tie that into what Trump is doing here in the White House. He has signed this executive order recently for stablecoin classification, asset classification. I mean, they're paving the way for already what's been in motion. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And very few people, I think, can read between the lines and figure this stuff out before it happens, right? Instead of depending on headlines to confirm news that you should already know if you're invested in this stuff.
What do you think about the tariffs? How can they affect the XRP price and the overall of the crypto market?
Well, we're at a point in history where I think the markets are so distorted that reality and fiction are two different things. But more importantly, I'll give you an example. Like Trump can make a statement and the whole market will react. So you see a real like psychological kind of warfare, and the whole stock market is psychological. It really is. And when we look at the Trump, I call them Trump tariffs now. Some people get upset at me about that, but I think it's more than just a political move. I think it's a strategic lever, you could say, in a much broader, high stakes global transformation. And a lot of people have their own opinions. I've seen so many videos about these tariffs, right? And again, I think they're missing the bigger picture because this includes the mounting geopolitical tensions that we see, at the same time, the fractured financial system. And you could see that this is just a slow but deliberate unraveling of the US dollar hegemony. And let's be clear about something. These tariffs, and again, so many facets to how this is being played out, but they're pushing more countries away from the reliance on the US dollar. So it's going to accelerate the de-dollarization trend. And this is already happening thanks to the growing influence of the BRICS nations and other emerging alliances. So when the West trends to like villainize these nations, like, we always downplay this thing. We demonize our enemies. We call them threats to democracy, when in reality, they're simply moving forward with these blockchain payment systems that can give them the ability to transact outside of the dollar, because I don't think they want US globalization. And if you look at what the US is doing with the tariffs, once again, just like 2022, they're weaponizing the dollar. And this is going to force these other countries to look at other tactics, really to trade outside of the dollar. And I think that's the majority of it. And in the short term, we could say even tariffs are going to inflict pain. Think about it, especially with the middle class, because the US, we don't manufacture anything, right? We import nearly everything. The only things the US exports to the rest of the world, in my opinion, is inflation associated with the dollar as a reserve currency, political narratives, so propaganda, and of course, democracy, which I think is being weaponized as well. So as more tariffs take hold, I think we're going to see more inflation. We're going to see higher and rising costs on goods and services, economic pressures on a population that's already under a lot of pressure with rising debt levels, delinquencies. People are borrowing at all-time highs to survive, and that's just not normal. That's no way to live. And the sell-off to the American public, and you know how the American public is, they're very, in my opinion, very naive and ignorant. The majority of them, not everybody, but they're saying that this is good. It's going to bring manufacturing back to the US. And if you look at manufacturing, it comes with a lot of risks as far as climate and other things too, and higher costs to push this manufacturing. So if you think about the long term, sure, it may work, but in the short term, it's going to de-dollarization, higher inflation for the middle class, And that's that wealth gap continuing to widen at the same time while they're printing money. So you got to think about all these contributing factors that tie into just the tariffs. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, no, completely understood. But what I have been following the dollarization problem that came. It was in 2022 or 2023. I don't remember when the Bretton Woods was when all these problems came after the petroleum crisis, and it came from 1970. It came all the way from there to having the dollar in a really bad shape and having what you're calling it's really a lot of problems that they have been creating, and the debt in U.S. is just astronomical. It's I don't know how they're gonna stop it, but part of it is the commercial balance or the deficit in U.S. is too high, or not.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
I just talked about it in a video this week, and it's in the top of the tops.
Yeah.
So
I
I don't
mean,
know.
our debt is out of control, and we live in a system tying it back to, the M2 money supply and money velocity and all of that. But for the US is you have to look at history. I think it's so important for people to study history a little bit just to understand how this all began, right? And you go back to 1913 when the US went off, they opened up the central bank, and that gave complete control to central banks to print as much money as they wanted. Sure, we were tied to the gold standard, but then if you look at how we have evolved since 1913 to 1971, when they took the dollar off the gold standard, it was all designed to give complete control to central banks to print as much money as they want, to build the military industrial complex in order to protect that very corrupt mechanism. And that's why Saddam Hussein, sure, maybe he was tyrannical. Okay, that's not our business. We should not be entangled in foreign affairs. Let countries figure things out for themselves. But guess what? He wanted to trade in gold. They killed him. They started a war in the Middle East under the guise of weapons of mass deception, right? And when you look at Gaddafi in Libya too, they were prospering very well, actually. And when he tried to switch to the gold standard, they murdered him. So that's how deep this goes, right? They try to protect the mechanism, but again, if they were not able to print all this money and exploit people and strip them of their wealth with fiat currency, paper money, it has no value. It's only confidence. I mean, its only value derives from the confidence that we put in it. None of this could have happened. The people should have protested this stuff in 1913, but they didn't have a clue. And I would say the same even today. People are figuring it out, but the majority of people still don't understand the mechanisms behind the monetary system. And that's what makes it so dangerous.
Wow. No, that's huge. And the M2, while you were talking about the M2 liquidity in the world, I believe part of this M2 that is supposed to be growing in the future, in the near future, will this affect the prices of the crypto market?
Of course. Yeah. It's important to clarify that every time we print money, we're pumping money into the system, injecting fake liquidity, but at the same time, it steals the purchasing power from every dollar already in circulation. But at the same time, you start to realize that that's how they pump the markets up. I've spoken with people who don't take our course. These are friends of ours, and they would say, "Hey, Versan, my 401k is doing well. My stock portfolio is doing well," and that's the illusion of wealth. Because what they don't realize is that for your 401k to go up, your stock portfolio to go up, we have to pump all this fake money into the system. So by the time your portfolio is up and you look at the rise of inflation and cost of goods and services for all the money we've been putting into the system, you're right back where you started. So you don't really gain wealth. It's the one percenters, the banks, the banking cabal, you could say, that actually prints all this fake money, and they can afford to take the money at a cheaper interest rate when it first gets freshly printed into the system. And they use that to buy the assets that you are forced to sell because you have to deal with the higher cost of goods and services. That's how they strip people's wealth away. But yes, to your question and to your point, when they pump money into the system, it's certainly going to affect the markets. You're going to see the crypto market go up. You're going to see the stock market go up. Because the crypto market and the stock market derive its value directly from the debt market, how much money is pumped into the system.
So at the end, it's inflation. That's what we've been talking all the way long.
That's correct.
And
Yeah.
the access to buy a house I don't know if you've seen a picture or a meme that it's called a meme that is a house. How many bitcoins were available to buy a house like 10 years ago, and then how many are needed to buy a house today? I don't know if you have seen it, but
I haven't seen it. I haven't
was
seen it,
over.
but you have a very solid point there. Here's another way to do it. What you could do is think about how many dollars are pushed into circulation, and take a gold ounce, just a single gold ounce, right? And you put it right next to how much paper currency you need, and that stack keeps getting higher of how much dollars you need to purchase one single coin. So that's just another analogy to what you're saying. But yes, if you're positioned in the right place at the right time, you certainly profit very well. But then the goal is to quickly get into hard assets at a cheaper price before they appreciate because the devaluation of currency. So again, like I said in the beginning, it's a psychological game. And for the majority of people, they're again not aware of these mechanisms, but also they don't really understand, and they can't afford to position themselves anymore because people are borrowing so much money just to survive. And this is the mechanism of central banks, very corrupt, unconstitutional. People are going to have to protest this at some point.
Well, and the SEC also, they're changing. They're here changing with the Trump's administration, but
Yeah, they're evolving. That's correct.
they're evolving, but it's tough. But what the Bitcoin at this moment is an excellent hedge for the inflation, I believe. Or do you prefer XRP? Which or both?
Well, I do believe in having a diversified portfolio. I do think in the short term, Bitcoin is certainly going to be propped up to higher highs. The thing is, when we're talking to our audiences, we're all, I would say, be honest, we're middle-class citizens, all of us, okay? And we're trying to participate in this wealth transfer, but at the same time, preserve our wealth and survive and kind of make it to the other side. If you're thinking about, in terms of wealth and how much dollars we have, and the real game that we're fighting is inflation. The problem is that our dollars are losing purchasing power. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. It's not just dollars. Again, we export inflation to the world. So whatever currency you're transacting in, the purchasing power is declining faster than you can earn the money. So when you think about it like that, you start to look at risk ratio reward. If Bitcoin was to say hit 250,000, even $1 million, okay, for how much dollars you're putting in or fiat currency into Bitcoin at these already very high prices, your return on investment is not even close to what you can be making on something that is a lot cheaper, that has strong fundamentals behind it too. And that's why I always refer people back to XRP. It's not because I'm pushing it or I'm influencing it. It's because it does have fundamentals. It is being adopted quietly behind the scenes, and it's being put into motion and into place. Few people can see it, and that's because the price isn't moving. They keep fixating their eyes on the price, not realizing the macro picture behind it. So for people investing in crypto and a hedge against inflation, the more money you have, the more options you have. You can certainly put some money into Bitcoin. I think it's going to hit $150,000, but that's because of the unbacked, printing press by Tether. That's a whole different rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm telling people the safest place to be, in my opinion, is gold, silver, physical, tangible assets. But when you're looking for a return on investment, I think you're going to be better off investing in these strong fundamental blockchain protocols that are being adopted quietly, like SHX and Velo. These have real use cases. They have real fundamentals. Look at the price. It's 0.01, 0.07. So in terms of dollars or fiat currency, you're making more of a profit with something like that. Because remember, at this point, a lot of these technologies are coupled to Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin goes up, everything goes up with it. I think there's going to be a point when regulatory frameworks are enforced and put into motion to where use case utility technologies like SHX, like Velo, like XRP and others is going to decouple from Bitcoin and all the mess associated with the unbacked exposure in the banking system. Like that's how deep it goes,
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it is SHX.
SHX, it's called Stronghold token.
Yeah,
Stronghold
I thought it was that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that one? Because
Sure.
I don't know anything about Stronghold. A little something to know.
Sure. It's a Stronghold SHX token. It's a protocol built on the Stellar network. It is a remittance liquidity provision protocol for the XLM ecosystem.
Okay.
And interestingly, Ripple is heavily invested into Stronghold.
Wow.
Yeah.
Being
And
on Stellar.
exactly, right? So that's where I wrote this paper about the complementary relationship between XRP and XLM, or Ripple and Stellar, whatever you want to call it. I wrote that paper because I see so many correlations between the two. Despite the fact that the headlines, going back to what I said earlier, headlines, right, is telling people a different story. I don't follow headlines, guys. I do my own analysis. I do my own research, and I trust my gut, my intuition, based on what's being interpreted to me. And I go from there.
Wow. That I need to take a look at that one, a Stronghold.
Yeah,
And the other one
Velo is
is
another.
the
Velo.
Velo is from where? Is
Stellar network as well.
okay.
Mhm.
That's the same from the same team as Aerodrome? No.
No,
No, they don't have
different. Yes.
nothing to do. Okay.
I'm happy to display it for your audience here, just because
Yeah,
I do
please.
get this question a lot, and I want people to understand that there are two different things here. Do you mind if I go ahead and display
Yeah.
this?
The one that you show me. Okay.
No, not that one. I'm going to
Okay.
remove that one. And sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Here we go. You can go ahead and display that.
Okay, that's it. Okay.
That's it. So it's actually called Velo, and that's what the logo looks like. And I'm glad we put this up here, because I get compliments and comments all the time about people saying, which one is it, right? This is what it looks like. This is it. It's called Velo, and Velo is very interesting technology built on Stellar protocol as well. It has real fundamentals, has good price opportunities for people, again, who are dealing with disinflation and whatnot, and trying to make good money and returns in the near term and long term as well. And Velo is a borrowing and lending mechanism. And people need to be mindful that we know it's going digital, right? And in a
Yeah.
digital economy, if XLM is designed to bank the unbanked, and that means giving people financial access, okay, then they're going to need a mechanism to borrow and lend, because the economy, and even in the digital world, but also in the traditional banking system, what keeps the economy going is borrowing and lending, credit and debt issuance. So this is providing that service for the XLM ecosystem in hand and in tandem with SHX, which is Stronghold liquidity provision. So again, very strong fundamentals. We've been telling people about this for over a year now, and my brother and I will not talk about anything that doesn't have fundamentals. I can promise you that much. We do very good research, and we look at not just the price, but more importantly, the use case, the utility aspect of these technologies.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
No, it seems really amazing. People are asking me to put in subtitles or closed caption. I don't know how to put it on the channel. Sorry, guys.
I think once it's on YouTube, there is an automated system where you can add subtitles. And I deal with the same challenge on my YouTube channel as well. A lot of our viewers are from all over the world, and they're trying to understand what I'm saying. And I'm very sorry. I mean, I speak Arabic fluently, but not Spanish.
Let me tell them in Spanish. Hola, amigos, los que me estén oyendo y quieran verlo con subtítulos y entender todo, va a haber una versión que saquemos después en español, pues con subtítulos apenas que se acabe la grabación. Entonces, estén súper atentos y lo pueden volver a ver. Sorry for the interruption, because they wanted to see it.
Of course. I mean, yes, please.
So I've heard about a lot about Velo and what is its market cap. It's the first time I really focus a little bit on it.
Sure. I really don't know its market cap, but I'll be honest with your audience. I don't pay attention to market cap. See, I don't pay attention to these. In my opinion, this whole space is still like a casino. Okay. Yeah. It's not entirely regulated. How can you use market cap as an indicator for something that isn't regulated yet? Why do you think they're stifling the regulation? It's because they want to siphon as much wealth as they can and create the discernment between the audiences and the people like us who are trying to figure out this space, and we don't know how to discern what technologies are going to be implemented, are going to have a use case. And I think when we look at things like market cap, it distorts the reality behind the use case, right? Focus more on the technology and what is it actually accomplishing? Are there competitions with this, right? And the projects that we talk about on our courses and what we send to people in our emails as well are all technologies that have fundamental use cases, have good price action for people to get in early, but at the same time, they're very complementary to each other. And that's important because what we see happening here is a complementary ecosystem. This technology is not competing with some of the other ones that we talk about. They are servicing different use cases in the global marketplace, and that creates a complementary ecosystem, in my opinion.
Okay, okay, understood. And what are the developments behind the XRP and Ripple? I know XRP Ledger is growing huge, but everyone talks only about Ripple. Do you know anything else around the XRP Ledger? Have you searched about it?
Of course, yeah. So I mean, when you start to look at the XRP ledger, I think it's important to understand that XRP isn't just any other cryptocurrency. You can also look at Ripple. Ripple and XRP are two different things, but it's the native digital asset XRP that RippleNet enables institutions to use. And if you look at Ripple's partnerships with central banks that are quietly shaping the future of the monetary system, and I'll give you some examples like Basel III regulations, which require these same central banks to hold substantial gold reserves. And XRP has been often referred to as digital gold by the CTO, that's David Schwartz. And what's important to understand is that RippleNet allows for the tokenization of assets like debt, bonds, and it's the rails really that enable the use of XRP. So they're two different things, but XRP isn't just a settlement mechanism, it's the core of liquidity as the layer for the new system. And we see a dual framework actually taking shape right now. Like XRP is designed, for instance, to serve institutional needs, while XLM actually functions as a P2P mechanism that's peer-to-peer transactions for ordinary people, small businesses. So yeah, they're building a lot of things on the XRP ledger, but I don't pay too much attention to that. I pay more attention to the use case of XRP itself and the value that it has. And you mentioned earlier that Ripple had already 1,700 non-disclosure agreements with governments, institutions, central banks. And that again underscores what's being developed behind the scenes. But then the center to it, the missing piece to RippleNet, which is being kind of put everywhere into motion, is XRP. So XRP I see as digital gold, liquidity provision at the highest levels for institutional settlement, which means the price would significantly have to be higher for it to accomplish its intended goal.
Okay, wow. Let me tell you an experience we had here in the channel some time ago. It was not far away, but we had someone from Persist, a developer for Latin America that is called Pedro Gutierrez. He was amazing. The interview I had with him. We had a guy from Mexico that was able to talk to him also, and they were talking about all the evolution of Ripple and XRP in Latin America, and you see a lot of things around the world, but never in Latin America. So it was really good to see it, hear about him, hear about this evolution, and they were not only working on Latin America, on Ripple and the evolution, but also on the XRP EVM. Do you know something about this EVM? Because it was amazing, that interview. He was talking about what the mainnet and the testnet that they're evolving inside, and it's almost ready to go online, to go on production.
Well, I don't pay attention to the little nuances like that. Ripple is developing every day. And again, when you look at XRP, its value lies in its network, right? So as Ripple continues to build and expand, like today, they were involved in a massive deal today, right? This is the headlines again coming out. But Ripple's partnerships with banks, governments, and financial institutions, payment providers worldwide, as it continues to expand, the use of XRP, the demand is there, but we just haven't seen it yet. So they're continuously building. And again, despite the fact that, there's all this suppression from the lawsuit, from the fact that the Supreme Court might get involved, I don't pay attention to that stuff anymore. I'm a macro guy. And I look at how this is playing out. And for the last 5 years, our track record has been correct so far. And it's simple. It's not because we're, speculating. I mean, we're speculating to a degree, but we actually have the documents where they talk a lot about this integration. And we've known about this for many years now, that this is the end game. So no matter how much they're building, that's great. And Vendel and I are so focused on helping other people to participate in this. That's our main objective and goal, is to help others, because I think the more the merrier, but everyone deserves an opportunity. And again, we want to emphasize and clear out the hype, but we want to emphasize the importance of owning physical assets as we are bridged into a digital system. Because there are two ways to look at this. And, I don't want to get into that yet, but I think it raises all kinds of questions and ramifications to personal liberties and freedoms if we're being bridged into a digital system. I'll give you an example. Why haven't we talked about having a digital constitution of human rights if we're going digital? That's a very important question, because capital controls can certainly be activated with digital money. Stablecoins, CBDCs, UBI, whatever you want to call it. They effectively function the same thing, because these are aggregate of a private entity. And Ripple is private. And that's the collaboration we see happening between the private sector and the public, right? And that's institutions, central banks, and they're already adopting this technology. So I think everybody should be asking the question, like, what does it mean for personal freedoms and liberties? Some say it's decentralized. I find that very hard to believe.
You had something to show us. Do you want to show it here?
Sure.
The document?
You're happy to display it?
Wow. No, it's you showed it to me at the beginning, but I wanted to see what you were bringing here.
Yeah, so this is a chart I usually use to refer people when I'm discussing stable coins. And I think stable coins is really the most interesting thing when we start to look at like cryptocurrency or blockchain technology in general. What I believe is happening, and you could see this if you, I try to read between the lines, okay? But when you see the dollar evolving into RLUSD, that's like the only regulated stable coin at the highest levels of finance. Tether, that's a whole different subject. They already made a statement about non-compliance, which is funny. And that's because it's the printing press for Bitcoin to artificially inflate Bitcoin. Okay, that's a whole different rabbit hole again. But RLUSD is a digital dollar. And I think where we're going is that all these currencies are going to fiat currencies as they continue to disappear. We're going to see all these currencies evolve into regional currencies like the US dollar, like what you have displayed here. And ultimately, you get to a point where you have a neutral bridge reserve asset with sovereignty. And I have the document for that as well here. See if I can pull it up for you guys. But it talks about this. This is from Ripple, by the way. Let me see if I can find it. I'm sorry. But in the meantime, yes, it talks about having this neutral bridge reserve asset, this mechanism. And we believe it's XRP. And, all the documents, I'm going to send them to you here when we're done with our call. And you're welcome to share this with your audience on your own videos. Yes, I encourage you to. And they're regulated with the Federal Reserve. I mean, this is old news. People are now resurfacing it for FedNow instant payments. They're regulated by the International Monetary Fund. Their engagement with other 40 plus regulators around the world, the Bank of England, Saudi Arabia, even Brazil. So we see this. I actually posted something on X where Colombia, the Central Bank of Colombia, was adopting Ripple's platform.
Yeah, they're doing it.
Yeah. I posted it on X not too long ago, but it's all about tackling global payments, national payments, which is domestic. That means interpayments, and digital assets. And that's where I think this is all going. Every document that we have confirms that the use of XRP and XLM is there. Central bank money, you could say, and so private money and retail money, right? Central bank money would be like XRP at the highest levels of institutional finance, and XLM seems to be more of the P2P currency for everyday use. And I wrote papers on this stuff. Maybe I'm not articulating it to your audience as clearly as I'd like to write it, but I'm a better writer than I am a speaker. I'll tell you that much.
You're an excellent speaker, better than me, at least in English, because sometimes I have my troubles with the language.
You should hear my Arabic.
That's amazing. I imagine that would be amazing. What? Let me tell you, when we talked with this guy on Persis, he talked about XRP working or Ripple net working with Nutresa. Nutresa is a huge food company in Latin America. It's a Colombian multinational, and they were building a lot of things around helping with the Ripple net work. So they were also working with Banco Central, with the Banco de la República. BREP is the central bank. They were working on the evolution of big payments. They're also using. I know we know it, but they're not talking about it. They're using blockchain to do small payments and immediate payments. But they didn't told them. I asked him specifically about this, if they were using Ripple, and he told me that he didn't knew about it. But I imagine that it was or Ripple or XRP or XLM. I don't know, either both. But
Yeah.
but it's impossible not to use it if you're doing immediate payments.
Yeah, again, to your point, I've studied this stuff for years, and I'm at a point where I understand that there's a complementary relationship between the two. Many will disagree with me. I understand that. Like many other things I've said in the past, people have disagreed with us, and then we've been proven correct. Again, it's through deep research, understanding, analysis, where we come with these conclusions. We don't just make this stuff up, right? We're just reading the documents and interpreting what the banks are not telling the public. That's all. And if you look closely at both sides, it's really Ripple and Stellar together that have been quietly building the global rails for the transformation. And RippleNet is just one piece of it. That's the interconnected financial system that allows these institutions to transact seamlessly amongst each other. Again, the secret sauce, though, is the XRP. That powers the liquidity settlement and the capabilities of the network.
And the narrative around this and the controversy that they are trying to put in the mainstream is that XLM and XRP are fighting among both. Also with Ethereum and I don't know, everyone is fighting, and they hate
there's
each other.
a lot of tribalism. I understand, and yeah, we try. I mean, we respect other people's opinions and their convictions. Some of them are very strongly, deeply tied to them. I understand that, but so are we, right? And the good news is, I have my brother too. Vendel and I were very different, as you can see. We're very different from the way we present ourselves, how we talk. And that's the beauty of it. It takes two to tango. And Vendel and I, whenever we miss something, right, we argue behind the scenes to figure out what we missed and other perspectives of how certain things could play out. So if I'm making a mistake, trust me, he's going to correct me. He's going to find what I messed up on. If he's making a mistake, I'm going to throw in that alternative to where he understands what I'm seeing. And we're always working together. And that's the beauty of it. We're not just one person, we're two, right? And I'm sorry, I was reading the comment there.
I also wanted to see.
I really love these live streams. I do. It's nice to interact with people. It really is.
Yeah, but sometimes when we're talking and when you're using the English, it's tough for me to follow you. So I pay attention to the chat or I pay attention to you. It's
I'm moving forward.
It will be easier.
No, you're doing great, man. And moving forward, I try to keep the comments away because I can't pay attention and I lose my train of thought. But I'm really just trying my best to put the information out there where people can go do their own research. I'm not telling people to trust me. I'm not telling people to validate what I'm saying. They have to go figure this out for themselves. And if they really want to see proof, if you will, it's out there, it's public. But if you don't have time for that, we do have sessions where I will explain things more gently, quietly, and I will send you the documents where you can read it for yourself. And I'm sending them to you after this call. And I hope you share with your audience.
Please do, because I'm gonna use this to do a lot of videos around it.
Sure,
but I want to know more. I want to know. Probably I know a lot because I've been studying what you do, but people probably don't know what you do. And if you go more in deep on what you do with your brother, it will be a lot of help for all these people to call you back or something like this. I don't know if you can show something for them to understand more what you do in your company. So
Oh, at Black Swan?
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's specifically just to, probably you have a list of clients here for you.
well, I hope so. Again, we're very, blunt and we're very transparent. We try to do our best to give people the insights they need, but um, we do have in our packages, we have proven strategies from insights and even from our own holdings. I've made a lot of money in this space. I try not to, talk about it and brag about it. We also have a very comprehensive portfolio that we share with people, tailored for short-term and long-term crypto strategies, with actionable steps, how to navigate just the financial markets, how to help you challenge the system yourself, and at the same time achieve your goals. We also provide like key insights and overlooked facts that people don't want to talk about, right? That's very important, having these different avenues to kind of contribute to your strategy. We do have very advanced investment strategies that we use, and just so much more stuff. We teach people about the evolution of the technology, the digital assets, each and every one, the real world utility, wealth preservation. I mean, it's a beauty. It really is. We try our best to help people. And personally, I always, when I speak with my clients, and we have so much relationships with our clients, right? It's not just about dollars and cents. We actually have a rapport with them back and forth. And it's constant. Many people come back 3 or 4 times, and at a discount, of course, to discuss things and just trends, how they play out. So we're here to help. We are very sincere about what we do, and we really care.
And how can they get in touch with you? Probably they will
Very
like
simple.
to. Okay.
Yeah, we would like to put out there that there are a lot of people impersonating us, scammers. We do not use Telegram. We do not use Discord. We don't use Facebook. And on X, we'll never message you. The only way you can reach us is directly from our website, www.blackswancapitalist.io, which is interoperable. Yeah.
I'm gonna look for it. It's share the link. Black Swan. I have it here. Done.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna share it to the community.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yes.
No, it's the most
and
important.
for your whole audience, if they send us a message and if they're actually sincere about doing a session with us, we'll give them a discount. And that's just a kindness and a professional courtesy to your audience. So just make sure that they shout out your YouTube channel, and I'll give them a discount for sure.
And how is it working with your brother? How is it working with in family?
Great. I mean, we're doing terrific. Yeah, it's just we're so busy. Vendel and I, many people don't know this. We run like 6 businesses when we're not doing our YouTube channel and our consulting. Like we're very busy. That's why I don't even put out so many videos anymore. But I think I put out enough of the heavyweight from 2022, 2023 to where everything's already been said, right? Everyone's just kind of repeating what we've been saying with a twist, Yeah. You could see it in the X posts. Sometimes people say XRP is poised. I don't know anybody who's used that word until ChatGPT came alive. Okay. So yeah, I think, you're going to get the best insight from our sessions, directly communicating with us one-on-one, asking your questions. And each session is really tailored to meet your financial situation. Right. And it's just very transparent. So we love what we do. We're very happy about it. We're enthralled. And we really try to make the best situation for everybody. But more importantly, everybody here has an opportunity to participate. And at the same time, we need to be mindful that, this transfer of wealth is happening in 2 asset classes. It's happening not just in blockchain technology, but it's happening in gold and silver too. So as we're bridged into a digital system, the allure and importance of owning physical assets is going to always be there. And people need to remember that, because by the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, I'm sure your audience is familiar with this guy, very nefarious, very, very cruel. And in his book, The Great Narrative, he talks a lot about this stuff, but he describes that a tokenized economy is the very slogan of own nothing and be happy. And I'm sure people are familiar with that. That's a digital economy. And that's why, again, I raised a question about digital constitution of human rights. You know, we got to be sincere about the transformation, not just talk about the trend. We have to ask the right questions. And I think in order to get the freedom you want, you have to ask the right questions first. Yeah.
Okay. Versan, I think it's time to say bye. To appreciate your talk, to your chat, your time, and everyone is really happy to hear from someone that knows so much as you do. So I
I
wanted to thank
appreciate
you.
that. Thank you.
From Colombia, from people in Latin America that probably are watching, people in Spain. There's a lot of people in Spain that watch the channel all the time. There's a lot of people from US also that follow my channel and my community. I appreciate your time and thank you very much for accepting the invitation here. I hope we can follow up and continue talking. I wait for the papers, documents, so we can
Yeah.
show. I can show it to the rest of the people.
Yeah, sure.
And
Give me like 5 minutes and I'll send that to you. And I want to thank your audience just for being patient and listening to me and everything I had to say.
it was really interesting and really if you have the opportunity to get a call with Versan, it will be amazing. I think what I've heard and what I've read about what he does and Vandels does, they're very very good.
Well, thank you.
I
Appreciate
recommend
that.
your work. Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I followed you, and I push and push to get you here. But
That's
it
very
was
kind
easy.
of you.
It was easy to get you here.
Yeah, it's easy to reach me.
Yeah.
I don't care how big someone's following is. I'm just here to have an open discussion with everybody else. I want to treat others like they would treat me. I mean, we're all on a level playing field, like I said earlier. Let's empower each other.
That's it. So thank you. Muchas gracias. Thank you for your time. Gracias a todos por habernos seguido. No olviden darle un like. Regálenme un gigantesco like. Comenten. Any comments that you want to put in the video, it will be amazing, and I will transmit all this information to Versan, and probably if he can answer anything that we can help, we're here to help.
Yeah.
Estamos acá
De
para
nada.
ayudar. Muchas
Thank you.
gracias. Adiós.
De nada.
Tengan un
De
buen
nada.
día.
Take care, everyone.
Bye bye.